This is my first custom keyboard build, a Kbdfans Tofu65. I like the clean small form factor and it seems to be the official gateway drug custom keyboard. I know alternatives are popping up and the price points are coming down, but the Tofu's proven and in stock. Solid aluminum construction, custom PCBs with south facing RGBs, QMK VIA software, all things I didn't know to look for or appreciate, but I went on a research and content binge. And so on that note, shout out to Shoobs, 100% accuracy, Romsicle, and Glarses, aka Cherry Brown Fanatic, Teha Types, Hippiotech, Switch and Click, and Austin V for a crucial VIA video. But like, sarcastically thanking you. Seriously, what did you get me into? Onto the switches. I knew I wanted to start with tactiles, but not just like any tactiles, like extreme tactiles, something like Elsima Jones, you get me. Because my only experience up till now has been a Model M, Razor with Razor Greens, kind of like MX Blues, and trying to friends MX Reds, I knew I didn't want clicky sound or linear. I wanted the tactile feedback of clickies, but thok like linears. Mike from Novel Keys supposedly said his goal was to make a tactile switch that felt like a clicky switch without the click. I wanted to feel this. I wanted to feel this switch, so it's the first switch I went with on this build. And so as you saw there, I opted for some of the options in the DIY kit. So the base kit, you're going to get a V3 Hotswap PCB, cherry stabs, and a case. But I also got the plate foam, case foam, and a brass plate option. Here's my pathetic attempt of trying to even out the stab bars. Either they were already good to go or I'm totally lost, but they seem perfectly flat. Again, they're cherry stabs, so I'm assuming they're not like the best, but they're not the worst either. They're not Durox, but they're not the worst. I wanted a stock baseline to hear what the tactile Tofu sounded like in the raw. So for the first configuration, I went with no foam anywhere. No gasket mount, no Tempest mod, no lube, just dry and fast. In hindsight, it's not so easy for me to disassemble, reassemble. So I kind of wish I just did all the mods straight out the gate. But then it's also kind of awesome to run it just so stock, and you gain an appreciation for the modified sound later. So there's pros and cons for sure. But putting those feisty little box royals in, I don't know how you reviewers test so many switches back to back to back. Man, I bent so many pins. It was so frustrating. So here I'm using VIA to hunt down bad switches, and they weren't bad, but I made them bad by bending it, and then I had to bend the pins back with the tweezers. And you have to be careful with this because you can break a pin off with too much bending. I lost one switch to the gods, but the other ones I was able to salvage, thankfully, and I had enough to complete the board. And so here's the keycaps I went with. They're a little Weeb kit from Amazon. Being my first build, I didn't want to pay huge money and wait a huge amount of time to get enthusiast-worthy keycaps. My Tofu came in quick because it was in stock, so I wanted some quick keycaps as well. The price was right. And went with the Weeb ones, even though I'm not really a big anime person. Calm down, Shoobs. But I did stay in Tokyo once, so actually I lived there for 3 years in southern Japan for work. So these were kind of a nod to that time. I did see some katakana keycap sets, but I went with hiragana because I can actually read hiragana. Ironically, it's smarter for a foreigner to learn katakana first, though. But I've never been mistaken for smart, so F it. Who am I kidding? I'm a weeb. Yeah, so that's really horrible. I think I even outdid some people's intentional bad build videos inadvertently there. So I didn't even fasten things down. I just wanted that quick baseline. And I know that would affect the sound a little bit too, but it was just more just scratching a little itch. And man, it's really hard to put those PCB screws in. So I put some of the case foam in to test what it would sound like just with case foam alone, but still no PCB foam yet. So just brass plate and case foam. Yeah, so that's just horrible. That's really, really bad. I'm not going to run this stock for a while like I thought I was going to. So any excuse I can have to go to Torrance Electronics, I take it. I like to support these little hole-in-the-wall places, so I'm going to run over there real quick and see if they have any types of lube in stock.
Yes.
It's an awesome place for anyone that's into like hobby electronics. And I was betting that they would have everything there. But, oh, and then in the front door, right in the front there, they have gaffer's tape. And gaffer's tape on some reviews I've been watching is you use it for the Tempest mod, and it's kind of like the Tempest mod on steroids. It's kind of even thockier than masking tape. And just like masking tape, it doesn't leave residue behind. So it should be pretty good to go with the PCB. So they did have this super lube in stock, which I guess is comparable to the dielectric grease in like viscosity and how it's going to tune the sound on the stabs. So I got some of those. They also have a bunch of little rubber grommets and stuff for like more sound dampening and tuning ideas. And they have a lot of the like rubber feet, and I've heard how like these rubber feet kind of come off the board sometimes. So that's cool. But they didn't have any Krytox, so that was a fail. And I'm gonna have to order something that's fast on Prime. So I'm gonna rush home to get that done. But then I saw this like funky car up ahead, so I caught up to it, and yeah, man, it's pretty cool. It's a modified Model A.
That's like a
I should not be happy that I'm old enough to know that, but yeah, I kind of confirmed him with them, and it's pretty cool.
Right on. That's awesome. Is that a Model A or T? Model A? Awesome.
So they just had this thick lube in stock, super lube part number 82340, that I'm going to use on the stabs. But they didn't have any Krytox 205 G0, so fail number one. I had to order some G lube on Amazon because that's what was shipping via Prime. So hopefully that's a good substitute. And that store got me to thinking, so for giggles, I grabbed some of the gaskets and grommets I have lying around to see if there were any dampener and different ways of mounting that, you know, might be some ideas in the future to change the sound signature of this board. And also already prepping that PE foam that came with the Kbdfans packing for the PE foam mod. And for those not familiar, the PE foam along with the O-ring mod is like a really transformative mod, at least in the videos I've seen. So definitely excited to do that mod along with the O-ring mod. And then here I am finally doing the stabs, some with G lube, and then for the wires I'm going to use the thicker super lube, and then the Band-Aid mod for where the stabs mount. And so those earlier mentioned enablers, those YouTube channels I mentioned earlier, go check them out for a lot of really good tutorials on how to do this properly. I definitely can't give it any justice, but they have great tutorial videos on how to modify your stabs and tune them and make them sound a lot better. And then this kit up in the top of the screen, this is a crucial kit I also got from Amazon. It has like the brushes, much higher quality switch puller, tweezers, and even a switch opener that works on both cherry and the kales that I have. So really nice kit, really useful. And then I'm also going to grab some of those 1mm by 1mm by 1.5mm O-rings to sandwich between the screws on the PCB, and then sandwich between the PCB and the standoffs. And that's another great transformative mod that you'll see on YouTube that I'm really excited about, where it changes the sound signature and the feel even to a really good extent. And here, a really good tip I also saw in some YouTube reviews was to thread that O-ring through the screw, put in the PCB, and then thread the next O-ring in line on the other side. And that kind of locks the screw in onto the PCB, and it makes it way easier to drop that PCB into the case and just start screwing it in without trying to like orchestrate like this perfect scenario of being able to drop everything and it doesn't move or budge or fall off or anything. So that's a great tip right there. The title's not clickbait. I was putting the switches back in off camera because I'm not going to film how pathetic I am at bending all those pins, and that Hotswap just popped off. And so I rushed over to Kbdfans just to see if they had any PCBs in stock just in case, and of course that's sold out. It's back in group buy status, so hot damn. So I soldered it back on, not really knowing how these things work, like how they break. And I'm in VIA right here, and I'm finding that I cannot get those keys to activate. So I'm surrounding it, and all those keys around it are good, but that's like a dead zone in there. So but then I remembered Wendell over at Level 1 Techs just recently made a video on a controller he's working on for some Model M clones, and check it out.
It's a matrix. It's rows and columns. And so like if I press R, it's going to be a certain row and a certain column that's energized, and the microcontroller in this will scan rows and columns looking for keys. Now, in-key rollover is the same kind of rows and columns matrix, except it adds a diode which prevents electricity from flowing backwards. You see, if I press 2 keys, the electricity can flow backwards from one column and row to another column and row, which creates ghosting. And diodes prevent that because electricity only flows one way. The good news is that because they've reworked the membrane on this, this is actually a 6-key rollover membrane, sort of a 10-key worst case scenario.
So that, combined with some Reddit posts and pics, helped me realize it's super hard to repair the connection from the PCB trace to the pads. And the common fix is to just jumper what I'll call the low side of a neighboring working socket to the affected socket, and then also from there to the next socket downstream of that, and then also jumper from the output side of the diode to what I'll call the high side of the affected socket. And so with that restored, let's revisit the horrible non-any foam, non-O-ring sound test, and then to the current setup. Yep, so still a long ways to go, but so much better than that bone stock sound test earlier. Next up will probably be the Tempest mod, testing between masking tape and gaffer tape. Maybe lube the Royals, but I heard that's kind of a moot point with how small their contacts are. And I want to try the Goka memory foam when that gets back in stock. I also have some Boba U4Ts in the mail, so I can get a taste of what all that rage is about, and I want that thock. And I just got some Limo 0B 5-pin push-pull connectors in to make some custom USB cables with. I plan on ensuring that the shielding of the cabling is grounded and maintains continuity through the Limo connectors, so that should be fun. All in all, it's been an adventure so far, and I'm super happy. It's legit fun to type on my Tofu versus the Apple keyboard and then the diaphragm holdover I was using to get by with. I'm super stoked, and thanks so much for watching my journey.